A very good morning and thank you so much for joining us today. This is Smart24 TV and we drive your business. This is Financial Markets, another edition of course coming your way. And my name is Anthony Sebale and I am your host. Remember to follow the matters here on Smart24 TV on our Twitter handle by of course following our Twitter handle, that's at Smart24 TV. You can also follow me personally at Anthony Sebale to get the latest content on financial markets and more. The show is proudly brought to you by Altex East Africa, and Altex is a trading platform that gives you treasury bond markets here in East Africa. They give you the latest and the most highly fascinating treasury bond markets here in East Africa, in Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania. And what's more, they are giving you access to these markets through your mobile money. You can be able to transact money off your mobile wallets into the Altex platform trading, and you can get your journey of investment started. Now all you need to do is to simply dial *292# and following the prompts you can register and invest with as low as 15,000 Ugandan shillings only. You can be with MTN or Airtel subscribing or any other subscription, and that will help you get access to the market. Altex East Africa, doing something new. Let's get to dive right into the business of the stock exchanges here in Africa, starting off with the Uganda Stock Exchange. Now, yesterday was quite a day of mixed trade, and there was various participants in the trading. And of course, the day was marked with various gains and losses for the equities here that are listed on the Uganda Stock Exchange. In aggregate, at least 5 equities participated in trading, and the day ended with 5 gainers on the main board and 4 losers as well. Stanbic Bank Uganda surprisingly came out on top of the table with a gain of at least 9.83%. To the surprise of investors, the stock has hit the biggest pricing this year at 25.26 Ugandan shillings closing price yesterday. Stanbic Bank Uganda just recently was able to register a profit of over 366 billion. That's after, of course, partial results were revealed by the acting chief executive officer, Madame Anne Juko, there to the media earlier this year. Now, according to the reports, Stanbic Bank reported a 33% growth in the profit after tax, resulting mainly from the diversification of its revenue streams last year. In details contained in the bank's financial statement, the Stanbic Bank company indicated that its profits after tax had grown to a tune of 366 billion due to the deliberate move to diversify its revenue streams arising from the lending of various sectors during the recovery of COVID-19 pandemic. Stanbic, which remains currently Uganda's biggest bank or financial institution by assets, has seen its profit margins grow over the years, notwithstanding the unstable economic environment, as well as the high commodity prices, inflation, and of course, some of the effects coming off the COVID-19 pandemic and Ebola. Now, for instance, the report that was produced shows that a profit of 275 billion was registered in 2021, and later on in 2020, actually earlier on in 2020, they had at least 243 billion. Now 2022 posted a 366 billion, which is a good indicator of growth. And definitely I would agree with the shareholders here yesterday, agreeing to actually push the price to the current 25.26. Now, this is not only the highest price this year, but it is the highest price that Stanbic has recorded since around May last year. So that's exactly 1 year ago. And when you look at the statistics currently, the trading yesterday at least had a 1.46 million shares volume, accruing at least over 36.9 million Ugandan shillings. However, currently looking at the table here, definitely there are quite a number of improvements In weekly performance, the stock has seen a gain of 9.83%. In the last 4 weeks, over 20.3%. And in the last quarter, likewise, 20.3%. And in the last 6 months, over 26.3%. And now exactly 1 year ago, the company has accrued a total value of 1.04%, which is quite impressive. And of course, this can be attributed to the reports I just mentioned, that the company has been growing in profits, and so has it been growing in assets as well. Now, getting to look at the trading for the bank here in Uganda, the company is currently the #1 most traded on stock as per the Uganda Securities Exchange quarterly report for the first quarter of 2023. Now, over the past quarter, just basically speaking, for the last 3 months, between the 17th of January and the 24th of April, Stanbic Bank Uganda has traded a total volume of 168 million shares valued at 3.83 billion Ugandan shillings over the period, with an average of at least 2.66 million shares traded on every trading session. A quite interesting report, and something we can rely on, and definitely get to get some stock from Stanbic Bank Uganda. Now, if you're out there, you want to access stock at Stanbic Bank Uganda, you can be able to do so. All you need to do is open an SCD account with the Uganda Securities Exchange, and the rest will basically be history. Now, if you're also interested in other financial institutions, you can access them, but currently I would highly recommend Stanbic for now. First of all, the stock is still quite affordable at 25 shillings. We don't know where the price could go from now onwards, but I'm pretty sure it's still going to be good for the next couple of months, till probably their book closure date, which they have not revealed, and as well their annual general meeting, which hasn't been revealed, the date when they'll be, of course, giving a confirmation for that dividend that will be issued to their shareholders. Definitely, there's going to be a dividend rise, because a company growing from 243 billion to 274 billion and now to 366 billion profits. That is quite significant, and that is something that Stanbic Bank can really be proud of at the moment on the market. So you can be part of that by getting to buy yourself some shares at Stanbic Bank Uganda, and getting to, of course, trade with other traders on the exchange. Moving on, Nation Media Group was the second biggest gainer, with a 2.4% increase in price, closing at a price of 437.46 Ugandan shillings. Cipla Quality Chemical Industries, which is the only pharmaceutical listed on the bourse here in Uganda, also appreciated at least by 1.45%, up to a price closing of about 70.0 Ugandan shillings. Now, Equity Bank Limited also appreciated 0.38%, up to a price of 1,243.38 Ugandan shillings. MTN Uganda as well pulled up its stocks with at least a gain of 0.01%, up to a price of 168.0 Ugandan shillings. In terms of trading, the stocks that traded big volumes, the biggest volumes, of course, Stanbic came in the first position, recording at least 1.46 million shares, whereas Bank of Baroda Uganda as well had some volumes of at least 725,900 shares traded. However, there was no change in price. Currently, the stock is still at 85 shillings. We did also have the MTN stock come in the third place at 26,500 shares traded, recording that gain I just mentioned of 0.01%. Now, Cipla Quality Chemical Industries as well currently has been putting up a very wonderful show on the exchange, trading at least 17,000 shares yesterday. In as far as the All Share Index is concerned, the benchmark performance indicator, it climbed to a tune of at least 1,123.07 points after a gain of 3.15 points. The local company index also increased, interestingly, by a tune of 1.69% to 273.79 points. Of course, this is attributed to the gain of Stanbic Bank, MTN Uganda, and a couple of other domestic stocks like Cipla Quality Chemical Industries. Now, let's get a snippet into the market performance for the last quarter, according, of course, to the Uganda Securities Exchange. Now, the quarterly bulletin has been published. You can find it at www.use.org. But let's get to see the highlights of this report and have a look at what the Uganda Securities Exchange actually analyzed for the last quarter, for the first quarter of 2023. Now, trading in the first quarter, according to the bulletin, registered a significant increase in the turnover, meaning there was more money brought into the exchange in the first quarter, comparing it to the fourth quarter of 2022. Now, at least the turnover increased to a 17.2 billion Ugandan shillings amount. That is from last year's fourth quarter of about 8.4 billion Ugandan shillings, which is quite some interesting improvement as well. Now, turnover was realized on 9 counters mainly, and summarized as follows. Umeme, of course, coming in the first position in terms of turnover. In the first quarter, Umeme had a turnover of at least over 9.27 billion Ugandan shillings, accounting for at least 53.88%. That's how big Umeme was there. Of course, this is also attributed to the increase in price of the counter and definitely getting ground on the exchange due to, of course, several things like increase in their dividend and, of course, the fact that they're going to exit Uganda, which is actually coming at a surprise because that would probably scare away investors, but it has attracted way more value to the stock in the recent past. MTN Uganda as well was in the second position with a total of 3.8 billion Ugandan shillings in turnover traded in the first quarter of 2023, and this is accounting for 22.13% of the turnover here in Uganda. And the Stanbic Bank Uganda stock came in the third position, accounting for 22.05%, and that is with a turnover of at least 3.79 billion Ugandan shillings. Other stocks like Bank of Baroda, Uganda Clays, Cipla Quality Chemical Industries, National Insurance Corporation, DFCU, and New Vision accounted altogether for the rest of the percentages there. And they accounted at least for 334 million Ugandan shillings turnover on the Uganda Stock Exchange in that past quarter of the first quarter 2023. Now, during the quarter, Stanbic Bank dominated the activity. Of course, that is not news. We just mentioned he was the top trader, currently still the top trader in the last 3 months, with the counter having at least 166,378,000 shares traded, taking at least over 74% of the percentage volume for the entire quarter. That's how big really Stanbic is. And like I said, first of all, the stock is quite affordable. With 25,000, you have already 1,000 shares. Now, you know, with 250,000, you have over 10,000 shares and so on and so forth. So it's quite affordable and investors want that. You know, investors are also looking at where do we easily, get to invest without feeling the pain, which is something I wouldn't entirely agree with, but that's the reality. You don't want to invest money that you're going to need in the short run. So you're going to invest that money you're not going to need in the short run. So you can actually watch that money grow. Now, Umeme recorded the second biggest volume with a 13.43% representation of the volumes traded in the first quarter. And in volumes, it had at least 30.13 million shares traded in this particular volumes, in this particular quarter. MTN Uganda, Bank of Baroda Uganda, NIC, UCL and Cipla QCIL posted at least 21.1 million, 3.4 million and 2.1 million shares respectively on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Moving away from the stocks, getting to the treasury bond market, the bond listings showed that there were 6 treasury bonds that reopened in the first quarter of 2023 with a value of at least 1.172 billion Ugandan shillings, which were listed. Additionally, there was a non-calendar treasury bond auction and the bond conversion as well. The secondary market trading is over the counter through mainly the primary dealers. Remember, when it comes to the treasury bond market, we do have the primary dealership, we have the secondary market, and usually when you look at the exchange is a secondary market trader. So the primary dealers are the people that actually deal with the primary issuers of these bonds. Bonds are issued at 2 phases. The primary market, where directly Bank of Uganda gets to auction, and the highest bidders, or the so-called competitive bidders, get to buy themselves the bonds. Of course, depending on the interest rate that the Bank of Uganda is targeting at the moment. Now, when you look at the current market activity, we do have a couple of primary dealers. We have several banks, commercial banks in there, like Centenary Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, Bank of Baroda, Finance Trust Bank, and a couple of others. This is where you go and you have usually those fixed income, securities, and you get to invest. But then on the Uganda Securities Exchange, we get to the secondary market. So if you are a non-competitive bidder in the first place in the primary market, you can come back on the secondary market and actually get to trade these treasury bonds. You can buy from the bidders that were competitive in the primary market, or you can buy from other secondary market traders who have actually bought from the primary market bidders. It's quite simple, and fixed incomes are really considered almost 100% risk-free. Okay, not 100%, maybe we can say 99% risk-free, because government is not a defaulter by nature, all right? But of course, the return, like is quite smaller compared to the riskier assets, that is the stocks. Now, we have a couple of bonds there, and when you open the report, you'll see the bonds. We have 1.6 billion, we have 120 billion, and a couple of other treasury bonds. Like I told you, the total is 1.17 trillion Ugandan shillings worth of treasury bonds was actually listed in the first quarter of 2023. Getting back to the market performances here, and besides Uganda, now let's move to Nairobi and have a look at what happened yesterday on Nairobi Securities Exchange, and have a look at, of course, the indices and what they have to say at the moment. In aggregate, we have 46 listings participate in trading on the NSE, which is the busiest and most valuable stock exchange in East Africa. The day ended with 18 gainers and 21 losers. BOC Kenya, or Commercial Bank of Kenya, led the gainers with a 10% gain up to a price of 77 Kenyan shillings, whereas Nairobi Business Ventures gained 9.49%, and Flame Tree Group Holdings gained a total of at least 9.48%, whereas as well Samia Africa came in with an 8.7% appreciation in price. On the losing side, the biggest loser was Total Kenya with a total loss of 8.88% and closing at a 20.0 Kenyan shillings per share. TransCentury shed off 6.54%, I&M Holdings 6.13%, whereas Standard Chartered at least 5.36% was shed off. In terms of trading, Safaricom continued to rally the market with the biggest volume traded of at least 13 million shares yesterday, and NCBA Group following with the 1.26 million shares volume, and Kenya Reinsurance Corporation at 562,900 shares, and Kenya Power and Lighting Company at over 527,400 shares that were recorded. Regarding the NSE market indices, the benchmark index, that is the all share index, dropped at least 0.75 points and down to 107.69 points, whereas when you look at the NSE 20, it dropped 0.18%, and the NSE 25 0.46%. Nairobi markets still continue to be bombarded by several challenges, especially the weakening of the Kenyan shillings against the dollar. When you look at the currencies, they have been trying to actually remain resilient in East Africa, including the Ugandan shilling in the recent few days, comparing, of course, to the beginning of the year 2023. Well, today we expect much better trades, and we expect more people to be coming on the market. It's, of course, getting into that season as well for earnings. Several companies have been able to issue their financial results for 2022, including the major financial institutions that are listed, like KCB and Stanbic Holdings, and as well as Absa Bank. So we expect quite more activity in the recent few days to come. And that means, of course, you have to keep your fingers crossed and keep your hands on the deck as you watch the trading and get to participate very, very wisely. Let's get over to the United States and have a look at Wall Street and what it has in terms of the trading yesterday. Remember, this week is a week for earnings for the big tech companies, including Amazon, including Google and Microsoft. Now, let's have a look at yesterday's trading. US stocks ticked lower on Tuesday at the opening of the tech conglomerates, as, of course, they were set to a very busy week where they're going to be highlighting their earnings for the first quarter. The S&P 500, which is a benchmark for the US performance, dropped at least 0.42% value, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average went below the flat line, and the technology-heavy Nasdaq Composite slipped at least 0.56%. The bond yields after the release of the fresh housing and consumer confidence data actually slipped, and the yield on the 10-year Treasury note slid to 3.4%, while the rate-sensitive 2-year note yields also declined to 4.01% on Tuesday morning. Wall Street is now focused on, of course, results from the big techs, especially from the sector's outsized influences on broader market gains so far in the year, including Alphabet and Microsoft, which are scheduled to report after the bell today. That's it, my friend. Thank you so much for watching Smart24 TV. A lot more business coming your way. Remember, we drive business, and we mean business 24 hours, 7 days a week. And I'll catch you tomorrow, same time, same place. But before we go, check out Otex East Africa by simply dialing *292# with Otex Zabu. Now, Zabu is an initiative where we're giving you access to the treasury bonds in East Africa using your mobile money. To experience the magic at Otex, simply dial *292#. That's it, my friend. Thank you so much once again for joining us. More business, remember, is coming your way. I'll catch you tomorrow, same time, same place. Bye for now.
Smart24, driving business.
Mbuto, the taste of Uganda in a new international park.
Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial *292#. Step 2, select option 1. Register with Zabu. Step 3, enter your full names. Step 4, enter your national identification number. Step 5, enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest.
Smart24 Driving Business.
From where you sit. Well, today we are not coming to you from the exchange, but we are talking to one of the top CEOs who is leading one of the largest companies by market size. It's actually 10 times the size of the next
10th stock that follows this company. You might want to guess which company this is. Well, Safaricom. We shall be speaking to Bob Collymore, the CEO of Safaricom, and we are coming to you from his residence in the upmarket, Nairobi. Thank you, Bob, for hosting us.
Welcome, welcome. I can't shake your hands.
Oh, I remember. Good to see you.
No, it's a pleasure.
Keeping well?
I'm well.
All right.
Well, thanks.
And we look forward to an exciting interview. Please
Let's hope so.
show us the way.
Come this way.
All right. Let's take a quick look at his profile. Bob is the CEO of Safaricom Limited, a position he held since 1st November 2010. Previously, he has worked in the United Kingdom, Japan and South Africa in a number of senior executive roles in marketing, purchasing, retail, governance and corporate affairs. He has more than 30 years of commercial experience working in senior executive roles in the telecommunications sector. Bob serves on the board of Acumen, the United Nations Global Compact Board, and is a member of the B Team, a not-for-profit initiative formed by a global group of business leaders to catalyze a better way of doing business for the well-being of the planet. He also serves on the Kenya Vision 2030 board, is a founder trustee in the National Road Safety Trust and chairman of the team's board. He has recently served on UN Commission on Life-Saving Commodities for Women and Children. Thank you so much, Bob, for making time for us.
It's a pleasure.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
Should I say Happy New Year, Happy New Month?
I think you can still say Happy New Year because we're just into February now.
All right. And Bob, such an honor to be in your residence. And of course, one of the big conversations currently happening is Fuliza. I mean, how innovative are you in terms of meeting the market needs? Looking at how this product has performed so far, I understand you've clocked about 6 billion in terms of since you started it.
You know, it's the power of the partnership. We didn't do this on our own. We can't take full credit for this. So we've been doing this in partnership with our friends at KCB and CBA, a long-term relationship. And we've been working on this thing now for about 2 years. And I think between us, we have a pretty good understanding of what the customer wants. A lot of people say, you know, you're encouraging people to get into more debt. Well, usually these are people who don't really understand what this product is. You talked about 6 billion shillings in about 30 days,
Sure.
which is a lot of money.
That's a lot.
But you know, the average repayment is in it's about 2.8 days. So people really are using this as an overdraft facility to help them complete a transaction when they just don't have enough cash in the wallet. And as soon as you put money into M-Pesa, then it pays off the debt.
So what was behind the thinking around this product?
We looked at a lot of customers who were usually what we call the hustler segment, who had attempted to make a transaction, didn't complete it because of lack of funds, but then completed that transaction within 2 days. And so we saw, obviously, these people are not people who want to borrow money. It's just people who don't have the funds in their M-Pesa account right now. Mm-hmm. And as soon as they get the opportunity to load the account, then they load it. Mm-hmm. And so it was that insight which led to the product.
All right. And Bob, over time, M-Pesa has emerged as the crown and the jewel, the flagship sort of the company so far. But at the end of it all, we also have the data business, which is also proving to be a force to reckon with.
Data is definitely got a lot of growth left in it. The two big drivers are M-Pesa and data usage. And as we get more and more smartphone penetration, more and more people want to use data. And they're using it for a range of things, you know, starting with social media use, but also you can now use it for things like e-commerce. So you can get onto the Masoko site.
Oh, yeah.
And all of that is data usage. So we're seeing the growth of data. Today, average consumption is about 850 MBs per month. And we see that over the next few years growing into being measured in GBs. So, you know, the average, I think, will be 3, 4, 5 GBs a month.
All right. And one of the trends we are seeing also, Bob, is home internet, which is also an untapped market, if I would say so. It was predominantly occupied by one of the competitors in the industry who are not having a really good time in the market so far. And are you seeing a huge opportunity, especially with the coming up of new estates, new neighborhoods across Nairobi, across the country in totality?
Yeah, again, you know, what's the insight which is driving this is what people used to abuse me for a lot a few years ago, where they wanted unlimited internet. And I understand why they wanted unlimited internet, but if you try to do that on using a mobile phone, it's massively expensive. And so we said, well, how do we deliver unlimited internet? And the best way of doing that is by having fiber to the home. I mean, this home has fiber, so whenever I want to access the internet, I just go on. I don't pay any extra for it. I pay my monthly fees. So it was that unlimited internet, but then we developed some further insights into it to say people wanted security. So security cameras, they want to see what's going on in their home when they're at work and stuff like that. So that was a surprising piece of insight which came out. And of course people want content. We're still working on the content piece.
All right. And still staying with this home fiber, it's quite fascinating for me because I'm actually one of your customers. I've also seen the rates that we've been paying compared to what we paid late last year coming into the new year. The rates were revised. And personally, I felt it was quite a bit unusual, knowing that your business has been expanding. I don't know, what is your message to consumers out there who feel the rates should be lower than what we pay currently?
I would point you to Treasury, because this was the imposition of the new taxes,
All right.
which previously didn't apply to home internet. And so it's Mr. Henry Rotich that you need to go point a finger at.
That's a smart one.
Yeah, look, I mean, I understand why government needs to spread its tax net, because really the numbers of people who are paying tax in the country does not reflect the number of people who are working. So government has this big challenge. We always object when taxes are pointed at our industry, whether it's on voice, it's on mobile money, or in this case, it's on data and fiber to the home.
Okay. And finally, on the data business, Bob, with these new emerging neighborhoods, are we likely to see a drop in the charge per month, especially now that you'll have more economies of scale?
The prices continue to come down. So if you look at the prices that people average price per, and I'm talking mobile here, but the same would apply to fix. If you look at the average price, it's actually declined by about 30% in the past year, and that will continue to come down. I would hope that we would start to make this more and more affordable for lower and lower income people, because access to the internet is a kind of a basic right that people should be able to exercise.
Speaking about basic rights, Safaricom recently celebrated its 18 years of transforming the way Kenyans live, interact and do business. And what are some of the milestones that when you look back with hindsight, you say, wow, we made it?
Well, between Michael and I, we look back at some of the big problems that we've had. And usually those problems are around network outages. So I've had my fair share of network outages, either with M-Pesa or with the network going down. Michael has had the same. So they're on the negative side. There are a ton of positive things. We were not the first mobile operator in the country. We were not given the first license. We were the second. We've kind of grown, and Kenya has grown with us. Our customer base has grown with us. M-Pesa is the one which comes up time and time again. Investing in 3G is something which we did when no one else wanted to do it. I remember I was sitting on the board and Michael was the CEO at the time, and the business case did not stack up. But Michael said, I think it's the right thing to do. Similarly, when we launched 4G, you know, a lot of people were saying, I don't think Kenya is ready for 4G, but we went ahead. And so we've always had the confidence in the country, always had the confidence in the market when other people didn't. The result of that is that we have ended up being the largest player in the market because we still continue to invest 35 billion, 36 billion every year, which no one else does. And if you do that, you will end up with the biggest network. You will end up with the highest quality network, and you will therefore end up with the largest numbers of customers. It's not a surprise.
Sure. And of course, this baffles many because now you earn the tag of being a dominant player.
Yeah, and we are, if you define dominance the way we define dominance, then we are a dominant player.
Sure.
You know, we don't have an issue with that.
No apologies at all.
Well, no, I can't apologize that we have continued to invest in the sector.
Sure.
You know, so you invest in the sector and you get a return for it. I look back on my early days here, where people were reducing the prices to but at the time I called it an unsustainable level. And it was unsustainable because if that's the price you charge, you will not make a profit and you will not be able to invest. And if you don't invest, you will lose market share. And so I can't apologize for growing the company the way I've grown it, the way we've grown the reach of the company, the way we've constantly innovated. So, you know, why would you apologize for that? What I would apologize for if we were guilty of it is an abuse of that dominance. And, you know, there's been no evidence that we have abused the dominance. There are times when, for example, the Competition Authority have said you need to remove the exclusivity on your M-Pesa agents.
Sure.
And we said, fine. And we did. So, you know, whenever we've been tackled on things, we've responded positively to it.
All right. And Bob, linking this response you've just given me, the growth of M-Pesa Global, from where you sit, what does it mean for the company?
Well, you know, M-Pesa has been successful in Kenya, and you know, kind of like everybody uses it. But if you want to send money overseas, or you want to get money from overseas, it's a bit of a schlep. You know, it's expensive.
Sure.
And so we've partnered with PayPal, for example. So if you want to buy, I mean, a lot of people don't use PayPal because they either don't have a credit card, or they definitely don't want to put their credit card there because they don't trust it. So you can pay through PayPal using M-Pesa. We have worked for a very long time with Western Union, where you can send money from Western Union to here.
I remember those days.
Yeah, you remember it was a long time ago. It was when I first started, actually. Now you can send money from Kenya to a Western Union point overseas, and a lot of people have got their kids or friends or family that they need to send money for. I mean, a lot of my friends whose children are being educated overseas, it's a way to transfer the cash. We've got some other things that we'll be announcing over the course of the next few weeks in this M-Pesa global space, how we will partner with other people to use M-Pesa for doing other things, for paying for other things outside of just in Kenya.
I actually have two friends of mine who live, one is in Atlanta, the other one is in New York. And we're in sort of a group where we try to do investments. And I'm the treasurer. So they actually use the service. It's actually called Wave.
Yeah. So Wave has been around for a very long time. I remember when I first encountered it, it was in Los Angeles, actually. I was there for a Milken Institute summit with some fellow Kenyans, and I met some Kenyans from the diaspora, and they were so enthusiastic about it because here was a company that really understood. And you know, Wave is a small company. It's not huge.
That's what I realized.
It's a very small company, but really understood the market, and that's, you know, they're the kind of partners that we really like working with. They understood the diaspora market better than anybody else and moved that money much more efficiently.
All right. And in terms of diaspora remittances, what's fueling this?
I'm not sure what's fueling the remittances back from from overseas. But I do know that Kenyans, and I meet many of them whenever I travel, including when I was off on medical treatment. There are many Kenyans who are really doing very successful things in wherever they might be, whether it's the United States or it's in Europe.
Yeah.
And because Kenya is, Kenyans by and large, you know, we kind of care about our communities. And this is something which is so frequently missed because we fixate on the thieves and the vagabonds. You know, we fixate on the people who are corrupt and who rob the poor blind, you know. And we forget that Kenyans really care about their community. And I think this is what you're seeing with this remittances back. Also, people want to invest back in the country.
Sure.
But, you know, to follow through on this whole Kenyans caring about the community, I mean, this is what we're trying to explore with our current campaign of Ndoto Zetu, where we recognize the Kenyans want to fix their problems in their society, in their communities, small communities. And we recognize the role that we can play in helping them. And that's what that's about.
I was actually coming to that, Bob. Kindly expound more on this Ndoto Zetu. It seems like I did see a couple of adverts on it, as well as some campaigns you've been doing. But for the sake of the investor community out there as well, in terms of what do you actually plan to achieve out of this? And if you were to give us a typical example, how will it work?
Well, how is it working? The Safaricom Foundation for a very long time has been funding projects large and small, but it started to kind of just focus on the bigger ones. And this was, you know, bringing it back home, bringing it back to what my predecessor, Michael Joseph, say, you know, it ranges from somebody who wants to buy a few chickens to start a chicken farm for a school. And so we said, look, let's just go back to basics. Let's go back to what were we really about? We were really about working with the community to fix the problems in the community. We don't actually do anything ourselves. We always do it in partnership with others. And the people who care most about it are the people who are in the community. And so you'd find a teacher who says, you know, I need to build toilet facilities for my children. And I don't have the funds to do it. So Safaricom, can you help me to do it? So we launched this at the beginning of the year, I think the 2nd of January or something like that, running for about 3 months. And we've invited people in the communities to come up with their dream of how they can help their community. I mean, so not a dream of how you can help yourself, because I already know what that is. I mean, you know, just have to look at my email inbox every day. You know, somebody wants me to sponsor them to do their masters in Philadelphia.
Sure.
I think, you know, even I didn't afford to do my masters in Philadelphia, so why would I pay for you?
Sure.
But we recognize that there are these ordinary people who want to provide wheelchairs for the disabled in their community, want to do latrines, want to have computers in schools. And today we're getting about, average run rate is about 500 applications a day at the moment. We will only fund 500 of them, spread across the country. Why does that matter to us? You know, businesses cannot succeed in societies which are not thriving, which are not successful.
Yeah.
And we can't hold our heads up as a successful company and feel proud if you have a society where, you know, the disabled person can't get into a wheelchair, where children, I mean, if you see some of these latrines that the children are using, you know, it's undignified, it's unhygienic, it's dangerous.
Sure.
And we cannot be proud to be a successful Kenyan company if that's the way that Kenyans are living.
Interesting. And of course, quite a step in the right direction, Bob.
Well, we hope so. We've always done what we think is the right thing. Sometimes it's not been. You know, sometimes we've made mistakes. But, you know, hey, we all make mistakes. You make mistakes.
That's true.
But we always try to do the right thing. And we always start, you know, in the right place, despite the criticisms. I mean, you know, you're big, so you get criticized from time to time.
Sure. And Bob, as much as this initiative is aimed towards making a difference in society, it borders on philanthropy to some extent, from where I sit. And Safaricom has also led by example, by having sustainability reporting. How does this impact really on how the company is perceived out there, especially now that Kenya is one of the key frontier markets?
We have been driving the sustainability debate for quite some time, ever since I started in the company, because we believe that in publishing a sustainability report, you become much more transparent. You become transparent about the things you succeed at and the things that you're not so good at. So when we look at things like gender diversity, we're very open about it. And we're very open about the movement. You know, has it gone positive or has it gone negative? We started measuring our carbon footprint. If you look at the last sustainability report, you'll see that the carbon footprint has actually gone up. And so it encourages shareholders to say, so what are you going to do about that? You know, you as a company have committed to becoming net zero by 2050. How are you going to achieve the net zero? What are you doing about employing people with disability? What are you doing about gender diversity? What are you doing about governance and transparency? Shareholders then have a greater degree of confidence in how you're managing the company. This is a conversation which I often have, particularly with Northern European shareholders. So shareholders from Norway, Sweden, places like that, they want to know, what are you doing about sustainability? And more particular, what are you doing about the Sustainable Development Goals? And you know, we have elected to support 9 of these goals. And you know, whether it is climate, whether it is working in partnerships, which goal number 17, whether it's good governance. You know, we have stated what those are in our sustainability report, and we report on them.
All right. And Bob, as we come to the tail end of the conversation, one of the bigger questions that, of course, investors would want to hear from you responding to is, we've seen the company's share price actually appreciate over time. When you listed first off, the stock was valued at about 5 shillings. It came to a high and hit about 33 shillings. Now we're talking about in the region of 20. But really, as much as the share has been doing pretty well and you've been one of the most liquid stocks in the exchange, from an investor standpoint, are there opportunities that you might be looking at to raise some capital from the stocks, as much as I know you have very deep cash reserves?
Yeah, we don't need to raise cash. The share price, yeah, we topped out at 33, I think, at some point. I think today it's probably around 26-ish. So if you bought the shares for 5 shillings, we would have given you your money back in dividends. We'd have given you 5.5 shillings back, and plus your 5 shillings would now be worth 25, 26, which is not a bad return, I think. We hope that investors will continue to have confidence both in the company and in the country, and the two things matter a lot, because you know, when people are not sure about, for example, the exchange, the forex, if they're not sure that the shilling is appropriately valued, then they're not going to invest dollar investment in the shilling. And we've seen quite a bit of that in recent months, where investors were saying, great company, like the performance, like the numbers, but not sure I want to put dollars into a shilling investment right now, because I don't know whether the shilling is valued. I mean, the great thing is that I think that between the governor of the central bank and Treasury, they're actually managing it pretty well, and it's defying what people have been fearing about the shilling. The shilling is really consolidating at around 100 to 102, and we're not seeing the decline, despite all the naysayers. So, you know, due credit to the central bank. So, you know, that does matter in the level of confidence that a shareholder has in investing, not just in my company, but in others as well. And of course, the underlying business is important. You know, people need to see that you've got diverse revenue streams coming along in addition to your traditional voice and data. You know, M-Pesa is trucking along, I think, pretty well. Felicia is just yet another example of how we're going to continue to innovate there. And we've only just started on the innovation. You know, we kind of slept a little bit with M-Pesa, but now we've got a fantastic guy who's leading it, Sitoyo. And Sitoyo really has turned this business around in the last year. And, you know, he will continue to do great things. So for investors, you know, I think it's a confident investment.
Interesting. So Bob, what keeps you awake at night?
That generator you're hearing over there is what keeps me awake at night. I'm not kept awake at night. I think that people who don't sleep well don't perform well. So I do actually get my 7 to 8 hours sleep. You know, what do I focus on? And certainly in the last few months and year, you know, you have a greater degree of focus. My real focus is how do I ensure that this company is set up to continue to thrive into the future, and that's going to be about, you know, what are the new opportunities we can explore, and how do I get the team out of the complacency of saying, well, you know, M-Pesa is great and data is great, and so we're good to go. You know, how do I get the team to understand that the threats will not come from the mobile operators? The threats will come from the social media players. You know, WhatsApp. I keep saying to people, you know, even my Fitbit, in some countries you can pay using your Fitbit today.
Yeah.
So these are the new competitors who are coming. And, you know, I really need to make sure that the rest of the team understand that they need to look beyond the horizon at what the next opportunities are.
All right. So Bob, you are away for about 6 months, and you lead a very big team, and of course one of the key landmarks of leadership is how do you leave your team to succeed even in your absence?
So a couple of corrections there. The first one is I was actually away for a year.
Oh yeah.
And the second thing is I don't lead a big team, I lead a very small team. So I lead a team of 10 people. And they then lead the rest of the organization. I don't lead the rest of the organization.
Sure.
And I think that's the trick. You know, you empower them. You know, so many people who send me CVs, and please don't send me CVs, because I don't give jobs. I only give jobs to the 10 people who work for me. Beyond that, it's their decision. So you empower them to make decisions. You choose the best people. And I must say that I'm extraordinarily proud of the team. And they prove themselves. You know, they proved themselves last year. If you look at the results, it will show that it's the right team doing the right thing.
Sure.
So this company is a company that's led by one person, but actually managed by a great executive team of 10 people, and then in themselves they lead great teams below. All right.
And you look like you're in tip-top shape, Bob. What have you been up to?
It's the drugs. I'm only half joking about that. Look, you know, I think you have to keep. I keep saying to people, you know, if you're in a swimming pool, if you don't do anything, you'll drown. You know, you have to keep kicking and splashing around to at least stay afloat. But I try to do a little bit more than just stay afloat. I try to move forward as well. So,
all right.
Yeah.
And how are you responding so far to your drugs?
You know, it's a new way of living. You know, you need to learn to live with cancer. A lot of people talk about beating cancer and stuff. Some people do. I'm learning to live with it. I have cancer, and as you can see, it's not really getting in the way of things.
It's manageable.
I'm learning to manage it, but you know, with a great medical team, both here in Nairobi and in London. So between them, I keep them busy. All right.
Hope the family is also supportive.
You know, look, none of this could have happened without the support of the family. A wife who's just extraordinary. You know, the fact that she came to London and lived through some pretty cold and miserable weather. She watched her husband go through his treatment, and 100% support, not 99%, 100% support, and until now, very protective. So I can't interact so much with people because of my immune system. So I can't shake hands, I can't go into larger crowds, and she helps me navigate through that difficult time. As is a wonderful personal team back in the office. So I look at my PA Marion, Gladys, Ada. They all really protect me and make sure that I can keep the balance and I can keep working well.
Awesome. And Bob, what will be your parting shot really as we come to the end of this conversation, knowing that as a country we are at the cusp of fighting corruption? The president is on record saying that it will be an all-out war.
So we've taken a long time to get to this point. We actually developed the private sector anti-bribery laws a while back. We still haven't seen anyone being prosecuted under these laws. So at the time we said we don't have the right laws. Now we got the right laws, and the private sector hasn't stepped up to this. What's really good to see is that in the public sector, the DCI, the DPP, EACC are all taking this seriously. And it's the first time that we've seen this concerted effort to bring people to justice. Now, having said that, we still now need to see people being prosecuted. It's not everybody who's been charged who will be guilty, that's for sure. And you are innocent until you're proven guilty. But now I think it's up to the judiciary to deliver on their part of it. And you hear the CJ say, but you have to bring good cases, and he's absolutely right, of course. But I still think that it's now in the hands of the judiciary. The politicians have done their bit. You've seen a lot of public servants who've been, hauled to account. But I think the judiciary now needs to step up and bring these cases to closure. If you're in the UK and you're had up for corruption, if you're had up in October, you'll be in jail by now.
Right.
We have to have swift justice because, justice delayed is always justice denied.
Mm-hmm. Great place to end the conversation, Bob. We need to see more of convictions rather than prosecutions.
You absolutely need to see more convictions. You need to see people go to jail. No question about that. Because the people who suffer most from corruption are the poor. And that's just it's just plain wrong. And so let's deal with it. But I'm really pleased to see the political will behind it. Whether it's from the president, whether it's from Raila Odinga, whether it's from the DP, whoever it is, they're all saying let's finally deal with this thing once and for all.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Bob. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to linking up more over and over.
You're welcome.
All right.
It's a pleasure. Thanks.
Well, quite a lengthy and insightful interview there with Bob Collymore, the CEO of Safaricom, one of the listed companies in the Nairobi Securities Exchange, actually the biggest company by market valuation. Well, it's now time for us to take a quick look at our market analysis for this week. Well, it is bye-bye from us from Kitisuru, where we were having an interesting conversation on the future of the telecommunications industry with the CEO for Safaricom, Bob Collymore. And he's quite optimistic that the future of the industry really lies on the data business as well as mobile money transfer services. Well, that is our nugget for today. My name is Abi Agina. On behalf of the entire team that made this a success, we wish you a lovely weekend ahead. And do catch us next week on The Trading Bell.